Hi, my name is Kishan. I am from CSE, Section B. Today I am discussing my Tech Talk video on Python programming. My topic is Seaborn Library in Python. So let's begin. Generally, a library is a collection of books or is a room or place where many books are stored to be used later. Similarly, in the programming world, we have a library collection of precompiled codes that can be used later on in a program for some specific well-defined operations other than precompiled codes. A library may contain documentation, configuration data, message, templates, classes and values, etc. So let us discuss what are the libraries present in Python and how we can import the Python libraries. So a Python library is a collection of related modules. It contains bundles of code that can be used repeatedly in different programs. It makes Python programming simpler and convenient for the programmer, as we don't need to write the same code again and again for different programs. Python libraries plays a very vital role in fields of machine learning, data science, data visualization, etc. So working of Python libraries. As is stated above, a Python library is simply a collection of codes or modules of codes that we can use in a program for specific operations. We use libraries so that we don't need to write the code again and again in our program that is already available. But how it works? Actually, in the MS window environment, the library files have a DLL extension, that is dynamic load libraries. When we link a library with our program and run that program, the linker automatically searches for that library. It extracts the functionalities of that library and interprets the program accordingly. That's how we use the methods of a library in our program. We will see further how we bring in libraries in our Python programs. So Python standard libraries. The Python standard libraries contains the exact syntax, semantics and tokens of Python. It contains built-in modules that provide access to basic system functionalities like input-output and some other core modules. Most of the Python libraries are written in the C programming language. The Python standard library consists of more than 200 crore modules. All these work together to make a Python high-level programming language. Python standard libraries plays a very important role. Without it, the programmer cannot have access to the functionalities of Python. But other than this, there are several other libraries in Python that makes a programmer life easier. Let's have a look at some of the commonly used libraries in the Python. See, these are the commonly used libraries in Python. Like here it is separated like data visualization, data modeling, database, etc. Matplotlib, Seaborn, PyTorch, etc. These are the different kinds of libraries present in Python. There are many more libraries in Python. We can use suitable library for our purpose. Hence, Python libraries plays a very crucial role and very helpful for the developer. So, just see what are the uses of libraries in Python. So, as we write large size of programs in Python, we want to maintain the code's modularity for the easy maintenance of the code. We split the code into different parts and we can use that code later ever we need it. In Python, modules play that part instead of using the same code in different programs and making the code complex. We define mostly used functions in modules and we can just simply import them in a program wherever there is required. We do not need to write that code, but still we can use its functionality by importing its module. Multiple interrelated modules are stored in a library, and whenever we need to use a module, we import it from its library. In Python, it is a very simple job to do due to its easy syntax. We just need to use import function to import the library which we want. So let's begin our topic, Seaborn Library. So first of all, introduction to the Seaborn. Seaborn is a library for making statistical graphs in Python. It builds on top of Matplotlib and integrates closely with Panda's data structure. Seaborn helps you explore and understand your data. Its plotting functions operate on data frames and arrays containing whole datasets and internally perform the necessary semantic mapping and statistical aggregation to produce informative plots. It dataset oriented, declarative API lets you focus on what the different elements of your plot means rather than on the details of how to draw them. So basically Seaborn library deals with statistics. So we can draw bar graphs, pie charts, and that means the data which we collect we can implement in a manner that like bar graphs, pie chart. So Seaborn is a data visualization library built on top of Matplotlib and closely integrated with Pandas data structure in Python. Visualization is a central part of Seaborn, which helps in exploration and understanding of data. One has to be familiar with NumPy and Matplotlib and Pandas to learn about Seaborn. So actually NumPy, Matplotlib and Pandas, all the features we can see in Seaborn library. So Seaborn offers the following functionalities: dataset-oriented API to determine the relationship between variables, automatic estimation and plotting of linear regression plots. It supports high-level abstractions for multi-plot grids, visualization, univariate and bivariate distribution. So these are some functionalities, not all the functionality which is offered by Seaborn. So it may have more functionalities, but we are going to discuss mainly these 4 functionalities of Seaborn. So to initialize the Seaborn library, the command used is import Seaborn. So again and again we have tried Seaborn, so that's why we can use its short form as SNS. Import Seaborn as SNS. Using Seaborn, we can plot wide varieties of plots like distribution plots, pie chart and bar chart, scatter plots, pair plots and heat maps. So just I told that we can use the statistical data on this Seaborn library. So these are the few we can implement many more. So first of all we discuss about distribution plots. We can compare the distribution plots in Seaborn to histograms in Matplotlib. They both offer pretty similar functionalities. Instead of frequency plots in the histogram, here we will plot an approximate probability density across the y-axis. We will be using SNS. Since we have imported Seaborn as SNS, so we have to use SNS dot distplot and parenthesis in the code to plot distribution graphs. Okay. Before going further, first let's assess our data set. So this is the way. So we can import Pandas and NumPy as well to have more features in the distribution plot. This is the data set which looks like. So we are going to present this data in a bar graph using Seaborn library. So now let's see how distribution plots look like if we plot for rating column for the above data set. So first of all we have to import NumPy as NP, import Pandas as PG, import Matplotlib as PLT, import Seaborn as SNS. So for creating a distribution plot for rating, we have to add sns.distplot and in that pstore.rating. See, we have stored this data as pstore, so we are importing it pstore.rating, and after that we can, by using .show, we can display the bar graph. See, the distribution graph looks like this. Here the curve that appears draw over the distribution graph is the approximate probability density curve. This is approximate probability density curve. Similar to the histogram in the Matplotlib, in distribution 2, we can change the number of bins and make the graph more understandable. We just have to add the number of bins in the code. So we can change the number of bins here, like rating. In the rating we have given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can change it like 1.5, 2.5. We can add more bins to have more accurate graph. So for that we have to change the number of bins. as shown here. So by changing the number of bins, the graph will look in this way. In the above graph, there is no probability density curve. To remove the curve, we just have to write KDE equal to false in the code. We can also provide the title and color of the bin similar to the matplotlib to understand to the distribution plot. Let's see the code for that. So here we have just changed the number of bins, so we can change the title color of the bin similar to the matplotlib to the distribution plot. Let's see that the code for that. So this is the code which we have to import or we have to write so that we can get the graph like this. A distribution graph for the same column rating after including the color and the number of bins. So styling the Seaborn graph, one of the biggest advantage of using Seaborn is it offers a wide range of default styling options to your graph. These are the default styles offered by the Seaborn. We just have to write one line of the code to incorporate these styles in our graph. That is, after applying the dark background to our graph, the distribution plots look like this. So we can change the background, we can change the number of bins, we can have multiple SS to show our bar graph using Seaborn library. So next we can go to pie charts and bar charts. So pie chart is generally used to analyze the data on how a numeric variable changes across different categories. In the data set we will analyze how the top 4 categories in the content rating column is performing. First we will do some data cleaning or mining to the content rating column and check what are the categories in there. So first of all, we have to import all the libraries, that is NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and then we have to analyze the data which we have already given for the content rating. So now after analyzing, the category list will look like this: everyone, teen, mature, adults. So this is the list as per the above output which we have given. Since the count of adults only 18 plus and unrated and significantly less compared to the others, we will drop those categories from the content rating and update the data list. So we are dropping the 2 categories because they are very less. So the category present in the content rating column after updating the sheets are this: everyone, teen, mature 17 plus, everyone 10 plus. So now let's plot pie chart for these categories present in the content rating column. So for that we have to write the following code. First we have to import all the libraries and then plotting the pie chart using the code plot.figure fig size equal to, we have to give a size, and then we can see the following pie chart. The pie chart for the above code look like this. From the above pie diagram, we cannot correctly interfere whether everyone 10 plus and mature 17 plus. It is very difficult to assess the difference between those 2 categories when their values are somewhat similar to each other. Yes. So for that we can use bar chart. We can overcome this situation by plotting the above data in bar chart. So how to represent bar chart? Bar chart, same. We have to first import all the libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn. Then we have to plot a bar chart. So it is similar to the pie chart. We can customize our bar graph too with different colors of bars, the title of the chart, etc. As in bar graphs, we did the number of bins and the background color. Similarly, here also we can change all these. The bar chart after writing the code looks like this. So next move to the third, scatter plots. We can even show scatter plots using Seaborn library. We have been dealing with only a single numeric column from the data set. like ratings, reviews, or size, etc. So the data which I have shown you, that contains ratings, reviews, and many more things, but we were using only ratings. Now, if we have to infer a relationship between two numeric columns, say rating and size, or rating or reviews, scatter plot is used. Okay, these plots are the most powerful visualization tools that are being used in the field of machine learning. Let's see how the scatter plot looks like for the numeric column in dataset, ratings and size. First we'll plot the graph using matplotlib. After that we'll see how it looks like in Seaborn. So first of all, so for comparison, what extra Seaborn will give, first we'll plot the scatter plots in matplotlib, then we'll plot in Seaborn. So first of all we have to import the libraries, and then scatter plot using matplotlib. So this is the scatter plot looks like when we use matplotlib library. So now if we use Seaborn library, we will be using sns.joinPlot in the code for the scatter plot along with the histogram. So we get scatter plot along with histogram. So this is the benefit of using Seaborn library. The scatter plot for the above code looks like this. So the main advantage of using scatter plots in Seaborn is we'll get both the scatter plots and the histogram in the graph. If we want to see only the scatter plot instead of joint plot in the code, just change the scatter plot. So here you can see the histogram above the scatter plot. So we can just have scatter plot event, so we have to write the other code for that. Now in this we have a regression plot, that is creates a regression lines between two numerical parameters in the joint plot, that is scatter plot, and helps to visualize the linear relationships. So for that we need the following code. First again we have to import all the libraries, and then the same thing now just using joint plot. So the graph looks like this. From the above graph we can infer that there is a steady increase in the rating if the price of the app increases. So we have discussed what? Price and rating. We are just comparing these two quantities, rating and price. So we can see that if the price increases, the rating also increases. So next come to our fourth, pair plots. Now pair plots are used when we want to see the relationship between patterns among more than 3 different numeric values. Just now we have seen the 2 different numeric values. Now pair plots are used for more than 3 different values. For example, let's say we want to see how a company's sales are affected by 3 different factors. In that case, pair plots will be very helpful. Let's create a pair plot for reviews, size, price and rating columns from off data set. We will be using sns.pairPlot in the code to plot multiple scatter plots at a time. So the output graph for the above graph looks like this. So first of all, from the non-diagonal views, the graph will be a scatter plot between 2 numeric variables. For the diagonal views, it plots a histogram since both the axis x and y is the same. So this is the pair plots. Now we'll move to the next one, that is heat maps. This we have seen while playing video games in our phone. So this is also representing the data in a 2-dimensional form. The ultimate goal of the heat map is to show the summary of information in a colored graph. It utilizes the concept of using colors and color intensities to visualize the range of values. Most of us would have seen the following graphs in a football match. Yes. So heat maps in Seaborn creates exactly these types of graphs. We will be using sns.heatmap to plot the visualization. When you have data as following, we can create a heat map. So this is the data. Now let's see how can we create a heat map of the above table. So we have to write the code. That is, first of all we have to input all the libraries, then we have to plot the heat map. So for the above code we can see the data in the new variable heat. The heat map looks like the following. So here see teen, mature, 17 plus, everyone. So we can apply some customization to the above graph and also can change the color gradient so that the highest value will be the darker in color and the lowest value will be the lighter. The updated code will be something like this. We have to apply some customization to the heat map. So here we can see that dark green color is visualizing because it has more number of ratings. So if we observe in the code, we have given and not equal to true. What this means is when and not is true, each cell in the graph displays its value. If we haven't mentioned and not in our code, then the default value it takes is false. Seaborn also supports some of the other types of graphs like line plots, bar graphs, stacked bars, charts, etc. But they don't offer anything different from the ones created through Matplotlib. So first let's see what is the difference between Matplotlib and Seaborn. So Matplotlib plots various graphs using pandas and NumPy, whereas Seaborn is the extended version of Matplotlib which uses Matplotlib along with NumPy and pandas for plotting graphs. It uses comparatively complex and lengthy syntax, but in Seaborn it uses comparatively simple syntax which is easier to learn and understand. Matplotlib has multiple figures can be opened, but in Seaborn automates the creation of multiple figures which sometimes leads to out-of-memory issues. Matplotlib is highly customizable and powerful, whereas Seaborn avoids a ton of boilerplate by providing default themes which are commonly used. So this is how Seaborn works in Python, and the different types of graphs we can create using Seaborn. As I have already mentioned, Seaborn is built on top of Matplotlib library. So if we are already familiar with the Matplotlib and its function, then it is very easy to learn Seaborn library. Thank you.